Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, let's close off the week with, checking out, I guess, what happened in the market and what we can expect for next week. Keep in mind, like I said yesterday, Monday is a day off, right? The market is closed on a Monday, so keep that in mind. So it is going to be a shorter week next week, starting on Tuesday, but nonetheless, let's see what happened and what we can expect. So Tesla, beautiful day, ending the day pretty much just shy of $760. I mean, that's pretty insane considering literally just a few days ago we were sitting at 630, right? It's crazy how fast things can change, which is why I kept screaming over here how, we can't just keep going down, and how but essentially expected it to be a fairly violent move to the upside. I kept kind of, calling it, something similar to what we had over here. Again, I still don't think it'll be literally this, like where we're just gonna go green, 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 like that. But nonetheless, I still think that we are gonna have, a nice move to the upside. I mean, we already have, but potentially I think there's more in store for us. But nonetheless, 7.36% on the day, which is of course, what am I doing? Wonderful day. So let's go over the market and let's see what happened and what we can expect. So let's do the 15-minute chart first. So there's one potential pattern setting up here that could be pretty bullish going into next week. It might start off not so bullish, but ultimately it is a bullish pattern. So the pattern is essentially a cup and handle, right? Essentially what it is you have, so it can technically start now, or we can go up to around maybe like 780-ish and then start. But nonetheless, the point is that we start a cup and handle pattern. So apparently you can draw on this one. Let me see if I can get a quick little drawing for you guys. Where is the, I never really drawn this before, so I don't know where the drawing tools are. I've never really used them. I'm assuming it's somewhere here. But if I can't find it in the next like 10 seconds, I'm just going to say, you know what? It's okay. Here it is. We'll use this. Okay. Apparently we have, what is going on? A lot of stuff is going on apparently. Beautiful. So essentially what the cup and handle looks like is something like this, right? You have the cup, which is what we have here roughly. And then the handle forms where it goes down, something like that. Give or take. That's essentially the cup and handle pattern, right? Again, it can start from here, or of course we can do it from here. And it'll be something similar, right? I think the start from here makes a little more sense. Makes the it just looks cleaner of a pattern, in all honesty. So I wanted to keep this one. But essentially the pattern is, you essentially have the cup, right, which it has like a rounding top. Same thing is played in a bearish aspect. Instead of like this, it's all the way, it's like that. But the point is that you have a cup, it shows the price kind of came to the bottom, kind of looped down and shot back up. In this case, on the 15-minute time frame we're looking at roughly. And then you have the handle form. And then the handle is usually kind of what tends to be like a bull flag. So you kind of have like a little bit of a bull flag that kind of forms over here, right? So essentially, if you just even remove the cup itself, you can just, let me just go making this again kind of crazy. Essentially, even if you like eliminate that part entirely and just kind of look at it like this, right? You essentially have a nice run up into a bull flag, kind of what we had here. Just this might be a slightly bigger bull flag, but nonetheless, you'll have a run up into a nice little flag pattern. Let's say on the 30-minute or something like that, right? And then off that break is where the pattern like gets confirmed essentially. So the reason I think this might play out is, number one, I mean, it literally just looks like it. But number two is, I think now that the cup is formed, if in theory we do have a drawdown, like let's say back to around like very low 700s, like 710, not only will that set up the cup, or sorry, the handle of the cup, which is again continuing the formation of the pattern, but it'll also go ahead and gap fill over here. So it's going to be a beautiful gap fill into the play out of the handle for the cup and handle pattern, again a bullish pattern, and then potentially a breakout. Now the question also is, well, okay, so let's say that does happen, how high can we go, assuming this pattern plays out? Let's say we actually draw down, go back to like let's say it's low 700s, we gap fill, creates the bull flag or the handle, whichever way you want to look at it. Then what? Like, where do we go after that, right? What's the play from there? So the idea there is, what you want to do is, so you essentially have the bottom of the cup, the very, very bottom of it, like the most bottom center part of it. In this case, it'll be somewhere around this kind of, 620 level. And what you want to do is essentially the neckline, if you will, of the cup, or like the very top of the cup would be somewhere around this kind of 760 level roughly, right? Essentially, once you come out of that, also, that's another way to break it. But essentially what you want to do is you want to measure how far it is from here to here, right? So that's, so you kind of want to do that, and then you want to go ahead. Okay, let's do like this, whatever. Oh my goodness, 1 second, sorry. I need to switch this thing to, let's just do this, whatever, we'll do this. Essentially, you want to go like this, right? So you essentially measure that from that, right? The the depth of the cup roughly, and then you measure it from the breakouts of where you break out from the handle. So let's say in theory we come all the way down here, you know, we chill, and then we break out somewhere around this general level, somewhere around here roughly, give or take, right? It's not picture perfect, but the point is that it gives you a rough example. And then off of that, you know, it's kind of like how you measure a bull flag. You know, you measure the pole and then the breakout from the flag, from where you break out specifically. And that's kind of, you know, a rough idea. So maybe how far you can go, you know, again, it's a very rough idea. It's not exactly this level, but, you know, it gives you a general idea. Same concept over here. Because in this case, you measure the depth, if you will, of the cup. And then you put it on the breakout. And then that says that we'll roughly go up to around kind of 8, you know, the mid 800s, let's just say, which is perfect because that's kind of what the level I personally been calling for. And I thought that, you know what, I think we have a decent chance to reach somewhere around the mid 800s at the very least. And that's the level I'm personally kind of, you know, looking out for. And I would definitely be excited to see revisited. Another great thing is the fact that not only did we break out of this kind of downward channel that we were in, so that's a fantastic breakout. It's a very bullish thing to do, of course. But again, you know, it's not uncommon for us to also, on top of this would be like almost like a third confirmation. So number one would be a gap fill, which is great. I want to see a drawdown for the gap fill. That's bullish to me. If we can get a drawdown and then gap fill and then bounce, very bullish. Number two, I also really want to see it because, again, for the cup and handle formation. But three, it also would be great because we can essentially almost retest the breakout, or at least get close to retesting the breakout roughly from this downward channel. Now, I don't think we'll actually get as low enough to retest it. It's very possible. It's only around a 690, give or take, maybe, you know, 680. I don't think we'll get that low in all honesty, but it's technically possible. But nonetheless, it will essentially give us, you know, a potential retest of this breakout as well, and that'll be a third bullish confirmation. And then if all three of those happen and we hold and we bounce from it, extremely bullish. That essentially shows that, yeah, June is going to be a fantastic month. And as if that couldn't get any better, June is also Tesla's, I believe, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Tesla's best month of the year in terms of just overall, you know, positive performance and the stock doing well for the month, specifically for that month, regardless of where, you know, it started, but specifically for that month is June. June is one of, if not the best month for Tesla of the year, which is great. It's extremely consistently green of a month. So the one thing that would make a lot of sense to me, and why I think maybe, you know, early next week could be bearish, the first 2 days or so, you know, as we create that, you know, bull flag or cup, the handle, or, you know, the gap fill, potential retest of this, whatever, is because, you know, the first day of the trading day next week is still May. It's May 31st, and then, you know, the 1st of June is going to be well, the 1st of June, that's the, you know, the month starting. So it kind of, you know, sets up this beautiful pattern as June essentially just gets started, like, you know, maybe like the first couple of days of June kind of sets up this kind of very bullish pattern, though it kind of looks bearish initially because you're going down, right? But nonetheless, it kind of sets up for just essentially a beautiful June is what I'm personally expecting as well. Now, that'll be really, really good. Now, but keep this in mind, you know, you don't want to take that completely too hard because apparently April is supposed to be a great month for Tesla. Ended up being a horrible month. So just keep that in mind, right? There are things that, you know, it's not just as easy. It's not just so, you know, black and white essentially, right? There are more factors that come into play. For instance, apparently quantitative tapering starts on the 1st of June. Could be, you know, a little bit interesting to see how the market reacts to that. We'll see, of course. But nonetheless, that's essentially what that's the major thing I'm personally looking at right now. That like play out. The fact that we broke out, setting up a nice cup and handle formation, potential, you know, bull flag setup potential as well. And the reason this also works out is because the VIX is actually at support. So this would perfectly line up with a bit of a drawdown early next week, because the VIX can get a quick little bounce over here, maybe back up to like 28 or something like that, maybe back up to like, yeah, around 28, I would say, give or take. Definitely wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. So we'll put a quick line over here actually. Somewhere around like, give or take around here, right? Something like that. Somewhere around this 28 level, right? The VIX can potentially jump back up there as well, which is, you know, very possible. It's right at support. Makes a lot of sense to me. And that would perfectly line up with, of course, the overall market getting a quick little, you know, breather, essentially kind of, you know, regrouping, refueling, whatever you want to call it. Same thing with the SPY. You can see essentially our, you know, resistance over here. Would also not surprise me if we come down, gap fill. Same with the QQQ, right? Same concept over here. So it just wouldn't surprise me if we just come down and gap fill both of these as well, and just indices in general. I'm assuming IWM is looking somewhat similar. But yeah, that's essentially kind of the major thing that I'm personally looking at as of right now, right? And I personally think it makes a lot of sense. Again, it doesn't mean it'll play out like that. You know, we could very well just rock it up. I don't think it'll happen, but it's not out of the question technically as well, especially when you have these bear market rallies, short squeezes, etc. And yeah, so that's essentially what I'm seeing. So taking a quick look, let's say the Bollinger Band, which of course you guys know I like, we are coming up to, of course, a resistance of the Bollinger Band as well, which could be another reason why we can get temporarily rejected. Bollinger Band is essentially sitting at 767. It will, of course, continue dropping into next, as Tuesday opens. So it'll be pretty much close to 760 as Tuesday, the market opens on Tuesday. So that's another key kind of resistance coming into play, another key factor that can, push us downwards as well. So there's a lot of factors and a lot of things, in my opinion, right now that are just telling us that, early next week, we are going to have a little bit of downside as we kind of set up for the next stage of this run. And that's personally what I am currently expecting. Again, could be wrong. Obviously, you never really know this kind of market. This market's pretty wild, but that is what I am personally waiting for, looking out for, and all that good stuff, of course. So the moving average, the 5-day moving average, you can see well above it, which is fantastic. Taking a quick look, of course, at also the 10-day moving average, well above that as well, sitting at $699. So we're above the moving averages, coming down to retest gap fill also for the 10-day moving average. Will also be essentially a support as well, so we can potentially bounce off of that. There's just so many things right now that are just perfectly lining up to just getting this beautiful drawdown to the moving average, to the bull fly, to the retest of the breakout of the trend line, resistance from the Bollinger Band, the cup and handle formation, the VIX getting ready to bounce potentially at support. Like, there's just so many things lining up for this to play out early next week that it just feels hard not to think that that would happen. So that is personally, again, what I am expecting. What I did today, by the way, is so I ended up selling calls a little too aggressive, apparently, because I don't think we run up this fast, this hard. But nonetheless, we did. So I ended up rolling one of my, my sold calls for next week next week, which is the first week of June. I rolled them. So I had calls that I sold for like 740, which clearly, were well past that. So what I did was, before we were even at 740, I think we were still at 730 roughly. When we broke like 733, is what I did was I bought it back, obviously at a loss, but then I resold them pretty much for break even for next week for $790, because I actually don't think we'll break below or above 790 just yet, mainly because, again, I do think we're going to have the drawdown, and that'll reduce the price of the calls. On top of that, Monday's a closed day, so theta plays in my favor there as well, which is great. So it'll reduce the price of the contracts, which is what I want to see. And then if we do draw down here, I'm probably going to buy them back if we do it, like, let's say by Wednesday, and then get ready for the leg up, which will be very, very bullish, and I'm going to be very excited for that. I did also sell a couple of shares. Again, I only sold maybe like 10% of my total position, maybe 15, but I think it was like closer to 10% of my total position in Tesla right now, just as like, taking some chips off the table. I still have a lot of shares. Maybe one day I'll give you guys a reveal of my portfolio and how many shares I have, etc., all that stuff. But yeah, nonetheless, that's essentially what I'm seeing, guys. Fantastic day, fantastic week. Last thing I want to do is take a look at the weekly candle. You can see here, overall, not a bad weekly candle. But again, guys, don't forget, we are still ultimately in a downtrend. Looking at the RSI, even though it's pointing straight up, which is great, it's still obviously making lower lows, lower highs. So we are still ultimately in a downtrend. So keep that in mind. I wouldn't get too excited just yet. I even said this before we started really truly rallying, that even if we do rally, don't get too excited, because we're still technically in a downtrend. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. The MACD, you can see, is actually made a very slightly, it looks like the slightest of slight lower low, higher low. Yes, I think a higher low. I always get confused when you're constantly going back and forth, like higher low, lower high, lower low, higher high. Anyway, but yeah, nonetheless, it's about the same, if not maybe slightly better. But the MACD is trying to find avenues to look bullish here on the weekly, but nonetheless, it's still looking very mediocre at best on the weekly. So the weekly is still telling me that there's definitely potential for more downside, even if we rally up to, like, let's say 840, even if we get all the way up there, that there's still technically potential that even after that, we'll just drop back down and potentially make a lower low. That is still definitely in the picture. I would personally not be surprised if we at some point visit 550. That is where, in my opinion, the ultimate support lies. And if that breaks 450, I would not be super shocked if we visit 450, though I don't think we will. But again, 550 would not surprise me whatsoever if at some point we visit somewhere around 550 to 570. Maybe like sometime in July, so maybe September, something like that, along the lines of that. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm seeing, guys. A whole lot of information, but hopefully it's useful to you. If you guys enjoy, appreciate this, all that stuff, if it's useful, all I ask in return is just a simple, like on the video and be subscribed to the channel, of course. But that's about it, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Hope you have a great long weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Peace.